Hi, everyone. Hope you can all hear us okay. I am Swar, and this is Nikhita. Thanks so much, David, for the introduction, and to all of you for joining us here today. As David mentioned, we were hoping to do this in person in Berlin, but couldn't make it there because of visa issues. But we're very grateful that we could make this happen anyways. And we're really hoping that you have a good time here today and find this valuable. So Nikhita and I are the co-founders of Xeno. It's a service design and social innovation consultancy that is based in India. We are a network of designers, researchers, and technologists from different parts of the world who work on projects across different industry sectors. We also very commonly partner with agencies similar to ours to work on global projects across different markets because we truly believe that nobody really knows the market better than the local designers and researchers. So Nikita and I are lucky enough to be friends for around 15 years now. We love to travel together and are also female founders who love to work together, which is quite lucky. So on the left, you see a photo of ours from our trip to Spain about 4 years ago. And on the right is a photo of ours presenting at a conference in Stockholm a few years ago. Both of us know each other from design college. And the one thing that everybody is going to tell you about that experience is that it taught us to be resilient and has united.
Did everyone have a good break? Everyone gets an extra coffee? How's everyone feeling? Yeah. This is so exciting. Great to be in the content. Great to see so many amazingly attractive faces in the audience, especially.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. You got hijacked by Adam Cochran. My apologies.
I hope that it's working fine now. Please let us know if it isn't. But yeah, so what we were talking about is that both of us know each other from design college. And because of that, we have a very unique bond with everybody there. Our college used to be an under construction building when we were studying there. So that meant we had no elevators in our dorms, no fridge or no air conditioners. So in the summers when one of us used to get mangoes or watermelon, we would actually put it inside the water cooler or the water dispenser to keep it cool. And in the summers when it was very hot to even sleep, we would wet the curtains and hang it on the windows so that when the breeze blows through the windows, it sort of cools the room a little bit. Not sure how effective it was, but it still remains our favorite memory. And I think we're not sure if the dorms today are the same. It may be very different. But for us who were like born in the 90s, this was a reality for us to find workarounds and solutions to challenges that we used to face back then, especially in India.
So growing up in India as a 90s kid was definitely very unique. We got to see like the economic boom take place and how it changed all of our lives in India. So we can start by giving a little bit of background of what typical mindsets look like and behaviors look like in Indian community, because it will then connect with the topic that we want to talk about today as well. So for those of you in the audience who are not a lot aware about India and the Indian history, to give you a quick background of where people come from, we have had continuous invasions from different rulers for hundreds of years, since we have always been a resource-rich country from the beginning. We got complete independence only like 76 years ago. And in the beginning, the country had very unstable economy and even the social structure, which led to an unequal division of resources and access to a decent life. So all of us, like me and Swar, would also have like family members who has seen the scarcity of resources in the beginning, which has now led to a very ingrained nature in people of not wasting anything. So for example, we repurpose the same piece of clothing worn by, say, two siblings, one after the other, and make it into like a handmade quilt, for example. So this resource constraints then led to people looking for making most of what they had. The intention was always to get like the maximum value with minimum efforts and with like minimum investment of time, money, even resources. So looking for value for money is one of the most common behavior that you would see in the Indian society. For example, if one is paying very higher amount for a hotel room, they would not only expect a great treatment from the staff, but also would expect like some kind of a complimentary gift or some experiences to be designed especially for them without having to pay anything additionally for it. Another very interesting social behavior that we see is being resilient in India and self-reliant. Um, there is sort of a lesser trust in systems of people for people to work in favor of the people. So the systems are generally perceived to be sort of broken, and it's perceived that they are unable to fix problems in favor of people by most of the majority of at least the urban population. So this belief has now led to people relying a lot on themselves or the tightly knit social structure that India has to find solutions by themselves by being very creative. Just also like one of the most commonly known fact about India globally is that India is the most populous country in the world now. But not many think of the implications and impact that may have because of that, because of the size of the population. So generational resource constraints combined with the higher number of population has led to the imbalance in access to resources and experiences. But this has never stopped people in India to aspire for, like the best experiences they can have. So this inherent optimism has made everyone very creative individuals with ingenuity to find their own workarounds for getting the best experiences that they aspire for. So these social behaviors and uniqueness of people in India has given rise to a mindset that all of us called Jugaad, which is the topic for the day today as well. So Jugaad is a colloquial Hindi word which was added to the Oxford Dictionary in 2017, which describes it as a flexible approach to problem solving that uses minimal resources, limited resources in an innovative way. So Jugaad is about everyday creativity to tackle a constrained environment with limited resources. For example, what just Swar talked about in the beginning, how when we couldn't reach the cake shop to buy a birthday cake for our friends when we were in college, we used to make do with watermelon that we had, and then we used to cut the watermelon instead of a cake. So that becomes sort of the everyday creativity that we were trying to show because we had constrained resources at that time. So today we'll share stories about Jugaad innovation in India that could inspire us as designers in creating sustainable future by being catalyst for the change as service designers. So Jugaad is actually a mindset and a very much part of DNA in all Indians, I would say. A phrase that all of us very commonly use is "kuch jugaad kar lenge," which loosely translate to "somehow will make it work." So it's an optimistic mindset to find solutions in a very resourceful way. For example, if we were to enter a restaurant with a very long waiting queue, we would say that "kuch jugaad kar lenge," which means that somehow we'll find a way to get an early entry into the restaurant.
So even though we've spoken about Jugaad in the context of India, the truth is that this mindset is quite universal. When met with adversity or constraints, most of us around the world will try and find a solution or work around that is creative, uses the resources that is around us, and will try to solve the problem that we are facing. And that is why there are a lot of parallel concepts to Jugaad across the world, like Gambiara in Brazil or DIY or hacks in the US. Jugaad actually also inspires frugal innovation and has been used by innovators to solve problems of a community, especially in times of volatility or scarcity. It is about creativity that does not really view constraints as a limitation or a roadblock. We'll now show you the story of about 60-year-old innovator who was so fed up by the expensive and overpriced boat that he had to take to see his wife who lived across the river, that he used his Jugaad mindset to turn his bicycle into a boat in only 3 days.
नाव का इंतजार मुझे गवारा न था, मुझे मेरे प्यार से मिलना ही था। मेरी बेकरारी ने मुझे आविष्कारी बना दिया। पर प्यार को भी आविष्कार का सहारा लेना ही पड़ता। आविष्कार ही मेरी नूर का नूर है, नई खोज ही मेरी जिंदगी का जुनून। माई टेक्नोलॉजी।
We love the story of Mohammad Saidullah, not only because his love story inspired his innovation, but also for the fact that he did not let his constraints sort of stop him from figuring out how he can use the resources that he has access to turn it into something that he needs or his community could benefit from. On the left here, you see a photo of Mansukh Bhai from Gujarat, which is a state in the west in India. So when his village was hit by a devastating earthquake, he created Mitti Cool, which is basically a fridge that is made out of clay, which is also called Mitti in Hindi. The principles of cooling in the fridge is the same as that of an earthen pot used to cool water. It requires no electricity, has no recurring cost, and therefore such Jugaad innovations have the potential of actually being low cost, energy efficient, and therefore very inclusive.
But even after having such very interesting stories of innovators, locally in India, Jugaad is not always perceived as an innovative mindset. It gets criticized a lot of times because of its limitations. So we would like to show you this ad campaign called Anti-Jugaad by Sulekha, which is an on-demand service provider based in India.
जग में लब भर गिरे को उठा दूं, उठे को सुला दूं, मेरा नाम है जुगाड़। दिल को कर दूं पिट, फिल्म को कर दूं जो ना हो सके मैं तो कर दूं। हाँ मेरा नाम है जुगाड़। हाँ मेरा नाम है जुगाड़।
देखो, ये सब जुगाड़ मेरे घर पे मत दिखाना, नहीं तो किसी और को लाके बिठा लूंगी।
सुलेखा, बस क्लिक करो और पाओ भरोसेमंद सर्विस पार्टनर्स जो समझते हैं काम जुगाड़ से नहीं बनता। सुलेखा, एंटी जुगाड़।
So this ad basically summarizes the typical limitations of Jugaad. It highlights the makeshift solutions that the man did, which could be temporary and even unsafe at some times. So even the ex-chairman of IBM India also voiced her concerns about the mindset being relevant only for a short term or not being used to design sustainable solutions for the future. So along with the limitation of scalability, the solution and Jugaad also gets criticized for being half-baked or even unsafe. It's perceived as ideas that are created without thinking of all possible context or possible impact of the solution in a long run. So since also we generally see this people adopting this mindset more at an individual level for themselves, similar to the man shown in the advertisement, It's also hard for everyone to imagine its application in a very formalized and even systematic way for businesses. But we feel that, in a sense, Jugaad mindset holds the capacity to become resource efficient and create accessible and inclusive solutions, which is what we all of us need in the world today, especially in today's time. So, if we focus on the core mindset of Jugaad, we'll be able to overcome the conventional limitations of Jugaad and also use it as a mindset for innovation for even for business applications. So Selco becomes one of the great example of how Jugaad mindset can be applied in a context of business application. So Selco was founded in India in 1995. It created a cost-efficient grassroots distribution network to deliver affordable electricity on a pay-as-you-go basis for underserved communities in rural areas of India. So by doing this, Selco managed to deliver more value in a lower cost for millions of Indians who were living off the grid for very long time using Jugaad mindset. Within local companies, global companies as well, companies like PepsiCo in their Global Value Innovation Center in India, they are pushing for sustainability and working towards identifying Jugaad solutions that could reduce resource intensity and could make their manufacturing and distribution processes more efficient. We can see them valuing the potential of Jugaad thinking to come up with economical and healthy solutions for their customers in a very responsible way.
So, as innovators and designers, in order to be catalysts for change and design responsible solutions for the future, we need to identify how can we really design inclusive solutions in the times of increasing disparity. We also need to figure out how can our resource intensive processes be turned into resource efficient processes. The resource constraints that we are going to be facing in the future is only going to increase the volatility that we are going to face, also in terms of the socio-political environment. And even right now, we see with increased polarization and increased tech dependency, there are shifts in society that already makes it volatile for innovation. So for us to be able to become that catalyst for change that we want to be, we can be inspired by Jugaad as a mindset to be able to achieve these qualities that are only going to be like increasingly relevant in the future. So today we want to share 3 mantras that are inspired by Jugaad with all of you today. And the first one is Jugaad to restore and regenerate. To understand what we mean by that as at a mindset level, we'll take the example of the movie Gravity that was released in 2013 at the budget of $100 million. In 2014, which is only 1 year later, India's space mission to Mars, which was called Mangalyaan, cost only $70 million, which is less than the budget of the movie. Now, this is an example from almost a decade ago. But only in this year, India also launched Chandrayaan-3, which was India's attempt to reach the south pole of the moon. And even that mission cost $75 million, which is still less than the budget of the movie Gravity from a decade ago. So it shows an inherent mindset of creating more value with less resources and not giving up because you may not have access to the kind of resources that can easily make it possible. Author Dean Nelson captures this mindset very precisely when he says, it's about how can we make this rocket, which is not powerful enough to reach Mars, reach there. So it's about having this resource-first approach to innovation without really viewing it as a constraint and using our creativity to innovate to create more value with less. Globally, countries have also started to commit to policies and regulations to transition towards a resource-efficient future. I think the speakers before us also mentioned this more in the context of EU. These show some global policies and regulations around the same thing. So therefore, the mindset of reusing, restoring, and repairing that is so fundamental to Jugaad can actually be elevated to be fundamentals in our design and innovation practice as well, that impacts all aspects of business innovation. Ghugari is one of the examples of many such businesses that are now built on these principles of restore and regenerate. Ecokari is a social enterprise that upcycles plastic waste into beautiful handcrafted fabrics that are then turned into products like tote bags, laptop bags, and pouches. They use simple techniques for hand weaving using a charkha or a spindle or hand loom and blend the sustainability principles of resource optimization, waste minimization, and upcycling with very contemporary design of lifestyle products. Other than such companies who are principally based on such fundamentals, there are also big companies like Apple who are now trying to figure out how to change the way that they've been working over years into including more sustainable practices like repairability into their value chain. So in the future, as service designers, we need to be creatively resourceful to build sustainable businesses. If we are also to adopt a resource-first mindset, we can create business innovations that are built on the pillars of resource efficiency across all aspects of the business, whether that is the business model, supply chain, value chain, or business offerings. And this is not just important, but very necessary for us to do so to be relevant and also responsible in the future.
So the second mantra that we would recommend is Jugaad for inclusive innovation. So if we really want to create inclusive solutions, we as designers need to make our processes inclusive too, by being open for taking ideas from everyone. So in India, the basic necessities of a society is defined as food, clothing, and shelter. But it won't be wrong if we redefine it as food, clothing, shelter, and internet as well. So with the rise in internet penetration, the access to information and knowledge has become very democratized. So the socio-economic background that one comes from or the position in the company does not represent the creative abilities of a person. And hence, we need to be open to take ideas and innovations coming from everywhere in order to design solutions that are diverse for diverse representation as well. So one of such example is of a company, Future Group, which is an Indian conglomerate, who helped in who distributed their decision making by involving their frontline people to come up with ideas that could help them increase the company's sale altogether. So this becomes like one of the very great example of how they incorporated the frontline people to come up with ideas and adopt the inclusiveness of Jugaad mindset to reflect and also like adopt it as in an organized sector. But if we search for an innovator on a generative AI tool, this is what the results look like. If this is the perception of a stereotypical innovator who can help us solve challenges for the future, so can someone like Mohammad Saidullah, who we tend to ignore because of our biases. So there is a need right now for all of us to broaden our ideas of who the innovator could be and make sure that the outcome, like the process is inclusive enough so that we are moving towards a positive outcome. An example of how an inclusive innovation process look like is of a company called Ashaya. They are Indian social enterprise that aims at working with the waste to create products like this sunglasses. So along with being sustainable, they also work towards getting informal and unorganized workforce like waste pickers into their formal and systemic supply chain to create positive impact in their life. So if inclusion is a goal that all of us are working towards, one of the most important part of it is to create solutions with democratized and inclusive processes. Having equal representation in the team, giving equal voice to everyone from the supply chain will help us create universal and equitable solutions.
The third mantra inspired by Jugaad is to face volatility with agility. This is our favorite quality about Jugaad innovators, the fact that they refuse to be paralyzed in the face of volatility or adversity and design their way out of it. The pandemic also showed us multiple examples of companies displaying similar agility. Netflix, for example, experimented with a feature called Netflix Party that allowed friends and family to watch content together from the safety of their homes. Another example is that of Grofers, which is a grocery delivery service in India. Again, when they faced an increase in demand with delivery of essentials and a shortage of workforce, they partnered with food delivery companies like Swiggy and Zomato. So with restaurants being shut, Swiggy and Zomato could leverage their established network of last mile delivery partners to help grocers deliver essentials. Similarly, during the pandemic, when the staff from the Scandinavian airline SAS were laid off, they were offered additional nursing training so that they could support hospitals thanks to funding from a private research foundation. And also, similarly, workers from Scania were also supporting a medical company to produce more respirators during these times. So such kind of agility that the companies displayed actually have huge learnings for the way that we work today. We need a similar sort of creative approach also for challenges that we may face in the future that may lead to volatility. For example, economic slowdowns or emergence of new tech that requires upskilling of the workforce or resource constraints that may have us consider sharing more resources in the future. So being intentionally and thoughtfully agile could help us adapt and stay relevant in changing and volatile times in the future. Service design actually does give us the tools to intentionally pivot or reimagine processes, products, and services based on changes that may be predicted or sometimes even unforeseen. However, we tend to design for the current situation and may be paralyzed by fear of change. So one thing that we hope that all of us can learn from Jugaad and also Jugaadu innovators is their ability to be agile in the face of fear, change, and volatility. For when reality starts to shift, it's very important that we move with it.
So with the such rapidly changing time, it calls for us to be future ready and also adopt to the changes responsibly. So, but whose responsibility is it anyways to become the catalyst for change and also design solutions that are relevant for future? So today we would like to articulate it as we are looking at this one world challenges, and with the rapidly changing context, we can no more call it like first world or third world challenges, but we all of us are in it together, and it's our responsibility to look at it towards how can our processes can be more involving or can involve more diverse representation without working in silos and thinking that only technologists and designers can solve the new world challenges. So we would like to summarize the 3 Jugaadu mantras that we spoke about in an idea of responsible creativity. It's about using Jugaad creativity for the future with understanding of our responsibility towards the society and environment. So we as designers can do so by learning from one another, from learning from different cultural ideologies like Jugaad, because each of the culture we know has their own very unique ideologies that have worked for centuries. So instead of reinventing everything, we can look at these cultural ideologies and modify it today based on what makes sense in the today's context. So to be responsibly creative for the future, it's important for us to reflect on some of these questions, like how can we become inclusive in our innovation process, or how can we adapt to volatility with agility. So we wanted to leave you with these reflective questions to think of ways that how to be responsibly creative for yourself. And we also wanted to refrain ourselves from giving like a very specific actionable, because all of us working in different contexts would need to interpret this very differently. So we would be more than happy to connect with all of you after the conference to find your way and your version of being responsibly creative. So we hope that let's all of us find that how to become responsibly Jugaadu as service designers when we go back to our work and start a new project. And when you do so, please reach out to us to tell us your version of Jugaad. And we would be more than happy to be part of your journey. Thank you so much for your time and joining us.
Thank you.